and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, this weather sucks. I'm just going to flat out say it. I normally try to give some witty introduction, but I came here, my shoes are kind of wet right now still. My socks feel a little soggy.
Honestly,
it's kind of bitter cold out.
It's funny.
I
I immediately told my wife that he's gonna find some reason to complain about the weather when we start the podcast.
I'm not going to come up with a reason to complain about it. The weather is my reason. It's rainy. It's gross.
I love this weather. I'm enjoying it.
You try being in a school of 500 children and tell them, hey, guess what? No recess because weather decided. No. Kids go loopy.
Sucks to be
We almost lost a few today.
What are you complaining about? You're a giant kid yourself. You're probably as loopy as they were.
Well, I'm always loopy, but that's not... I don't use the rain as my excuse. No, when I woke up this morning, actually, my whole sinuses were just destroying me because of the atmospheric pressure. Everyone's felt out of it. The kids were hyper. But one of the fun things that we were doing in our school is, so viewers of the podcast may know that I teach technology to elementary kids. Well, right now we're doing typing competitions, and I've never seen such amazingly fierce competitions. And I had a fourth grader today.
You work with kids. How do you not see competitions?
Well, I've seen friendly competitions and stuff, but this is a chance where the awesome, nerdy, quiet kids really have an ability to shine and show off skills that nobody knew that they had. When we finally had the highest score today, I finally announced, all right, we have a winner in this class. She put 47 words per minute with 95% accuracy, which is great. And she's a fourth grader, and she's apparently the quietest kid in the class. And everyone just looked around at her, stared at her for a moment, and started cheering. It was amazing. It was great to hear. So,
how's it going, Mario? Normally it is Wednesdays. We just tend to have a better chat room on Mondays.
Mondays, yeah. We had to change today. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, is that my wife was out of town this weekend, so I had to see her. But either way, it was good. 47 words per minute, 95% accuracy.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that, and I chicken peck at my keyboard.
Exactly, same here. Ironically enough, the tech teacher is a chicken pecker. But
hey, I'm a fast chicken pecker, but I don't think I can get 45 with 95 for accuracy.
Yeah. I think the best I did was barely in the 50s. But I have one fifth grader who already told me that the other day she was able to get 67.
Nice.
It's like, whoa.
That's crazy.
So I'm really excited about that. Welcome, Mario Fanatics. We appreciate you joining in. So today we're going to be talking about one of our top 8 debates, and this is one that I'm personally really excited for.
And that's why I gave it to you. I got to throw you a bone every now and then.
Every once in a while you do. And I'll give you this because one of the things that I really enjoy is I appreciate it when we play a really fun, family weight game. I don't need complex games every single game I play. Sometimes it's fun to just sit back and just play something that's either stupid or silly. And honestly, and not saying that these games are stupid or silly, but they're definitely by no means the level of complexity that a lot of companies go off nowadays.
This one, you're not dealing with stuff like boards and dice, which are way on the, or a Vito Lacerda game or stuff like that. They have their place, and they're fun to play, but sometimes it's a bit draining.
Yeah. So this company is Blue Orange Games.
You wanted to do a publisher.
The American one. Yeah, we wanted to do a publisher. And they focus mainly on kids and family games.
A lot of it is Euro mechanisms, but...
Yeah, they work with a lot of well-known Euro designers like Bruno Cathala and whatnot. And a lot of their games
Phil Walker Harding.
Stuff like... Phil Walker Harding. They've won awards like the Spiel des Jahres before. And also, on top of that, a lot of the games are really well produced, too, I think.
Really well produced.
Yeah. They know their market, they know what they're doing, and we're looking forward to debating them today. I know Daniel did not play nearly as many as I have, but...
I was able to just barely hit 11 games. The 8, right. 11 plus the 3 honorable mentions.
That's right. So we're going to be talking about those. But before we get into our debate today, we always like to talk about what we've been playing lately. So Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
And since it's been a while since we last talked about this, I mean, I had to go all the way back to really talk about some stuff. And I'm like, no, I've talked about this before. I've done this before. So I'm just going to push those out of the way and talk about some of the more recent stuff that I did. The first one I want to talk about is I really had fun with this game. It's a Bruno Cathala game, and we're going to have Bruno Cathala in here. It was our mutual friend Dom's pick. And so this was Queens, to be or not to be.
Yes.
Queens
with a Z, with a Z for our European viewers.
To be or not to be, and it's not B-E, it's B-E-E, because it's basically about bees and stuff like that. And you're trying to match sets of bees as you're building your little flower garden. Mm-hmm. And so every group of bees near a hive will give you points, including the bees or 3 queens and stuff like that. And you have a cool little drafting mechanism, which really intrigued me with this one. Is like, I could take 3 different tiles, 2 tiles of the same type, or if it has a bee on it, I can only take that tile. And then depending on how many tiles you ended up taking, you move the little mechanism around the board. And then your opponent has to pick from that row, and then it goes around the side of the board, and the next person has to pick from that column and stuff like that. So it's interesting how that worked. I love that drafting mechanism. And then you would have to, once you can place your honey, because you had to place, I think it was like 3 or 4 flowers, and if you ran out of space, and you have to place all on field or something like that. And when someone
you have to be able to populate the polyomino field.
Yeah, the polyomino field. Once someone populates an entire 5 fields, the game's over. I really liked with this. I wish it was a little bit more colorblind friendly. Some of the plants, I had to make sure, like, I'm going to put all the reds over here, and I'm going to put these ones over here, because the pinks, because I'm like, don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not going to grab pinks. I'm going to put all the reds over here. But I really enjoyed it. I was surprised how much I liked it. I mean, I knew I was going to like it because I like Bruno Cathala games. I thought they were fun games that he does really well. It's one of my favorite designers. Go up there with like Stefan Feld and Phil Walker Harding. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one. I want to play it some more. And one of the things I gave myself a note is, the theme's non-existent. This could have been anything.
It really could have.
It could have been anything.
Yeah.
And it would have worked fine. So you could have made it space bees, like apiary, and it would still work.
Sure.
You're collecting planets instead of flowers.
Yeah, the theme is very pasted on, as with many Cathala games. But no, this one worked really well. I mean, just the fact that you could take... It's very Splendor-esque on how you draft the tiles. So either one with a bee... 2 different, or 2 of the same, or 3 different.
Yeah.
Very smart, but you're trying to get groups of the same colors. Sometimes you want the bees.
And sometimes you're also like, I don't really want to. I mean, that queen bee is going to be really nice for me, because when you take a queen bee, you can swap it immediately with something out there, which allows you to do a little bit of a rearrange if you need to.
Yep.
So, like, if I take, like, all my white flowers and there's one little red flowers in that grouping of white flowers, because you're going to score your flower groupings, and because that's going to be your points. So I could take this queen that's sitting on a white flower and take out that red that's sitting in there and put it in there, and it's next to a honey thing, so that's going to help out too. And I love that little mechanism, that little wherewithal. But then you're sitting there like, I could really use that queen bee, but then I would only move this one spot, and that's too good of a turn for you.
For the next part, yeah. That was the best part about it, is knowing that you could only limitedly take 1 to 3 of the tiles. Yeah. But then it moves that number of spaces clockwise around the board. That was smart.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
And also, like, when it passes go, in a sense, like in
jumps around the corner.
Monopoly, there's a junction around one of the corners.
Yep.
When you get a certain reward if you're the one that causes it to pass.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. You're like, okay, can I manipulate this, or when it's my turn, it's going to pass and I'm going to get that reward. I can't remember what the reward was, but it wasn't something big, but it was helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you get something out of it, but then you refill the board. I mean, that's the big thing, is just so it can repopulate.
And it also repopulates the board.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, I really did like that mechanism, because it's smart. It makes you think strategically. I could do something that can really, really help me, or I can do something but it's going to really set up the next person, or I can do something that still helps me, and you don't get a really good move on your next turn.
Right. Exactly.
So I did like that a lot.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I was really impressed with this game. Very much so.
I just wish it was either had a better theme or better color palette.
Yeah, I agree. The first game I wanted to talk about was a solo game. I've been playing a lot of solo games lately that I've been wanting to speak about. This next one is the next in the Oniverse series. It is the newest one.
Siberian.
And the idea is that you are basically fixing broken robots. You have to fix a certain number of robots. They have different criteria of how you can do it. Like you can discard 2 cards that have the number 4 on it, or 2 red cards, or something to that effect. And you have a selection of different cards that you have in order to use for these robots.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways that you could do it. So the way it essentially works is that you have a row of cards. You have up to 3 rows, but one of them is like the flash row. I'm not going to get the names right on this, but the idea is like you have the main row, which you fill those.
This is a family friendly.
You know what I mean. There's like the storage row, the main row, and like the flash row or something like that.
Family friendly.
I know, sir. They're robots. They don't count. But the bottom row, the storage row, those cards are just always in play. So
I could have made a Futurama reference on that, but okay.
Of the main row, that's what refills every turn, because the storage row never gets refilled unless you actually cause an action to bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
But the main row gets refilled every turn, and then the top row, the one I'm not going to repeat again, gets discarded at the end of the turn. So they're kind of like temporary cards, but you can get them quicker, right? You have to get through you have to fulfill all of these requirements before you get through the deck twice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really simple. But as you fix these robots by doing these combinations, you can expend them for basically experience points. And that will let you jump up the 5 different colored abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, later on, you can actually just discard a card for its ability.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the better you've upgraded it, the better the action it's going to be.
This sounds fun. I have to pick this one.
It has some really cool variation. This is just the base of it. Of like all of the Universe games, they have expansions modules.
I still need to play on Iron's modules.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I will gladly teach you the doors. Those are the main ones that I really like, and yeah,
I like
there's some pretty wild
and
ones.
only because I played it on the app, the Portal one.
Yes.
Where it gives you that little portal symbol.
Yep.
Yeah, but I haven't played it on the physical game. I've only played the regular Onirum on the physical game.
Absolutely. No, this was really impressive how it worked. I enjoyed it. I was down to one turn and I lost. I had 1 card left to go and I barely lost. Now, granted, it does say the very first time you play it, you should have an extra little bonus token. Mm-hmm. I forgot to give myself that token, so that's probably where it was. But the fact that I almost won on the first time, I'm pretty proud of. Siberian, fantastic solo game. I couldn't recommend it enough.
I do love Onirum a lot, and I've heard really good things about Siberian.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try some of the other ones. I do like the physical copy of Onirum.
Yeah.
It's nice just to pull out a nice little quick card game.
Yep.
But it's also a really great app too. So it's kind of hard for me to bust out the physical game when I could just put it on my phone and it takes care of all the shuffling and everything.
And I honestly think that Siberian would make a really good app too if you just had like a little banner on the top of your phone or tablet.
Yeah.
That you just click on to upgrade, and it gets rid of your robots and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No,
I liked it.
I do want to check this out. I want to try some of the other ones. I've only ever played Onirum, so I don't know any of the other Oniverse games.
Nautilion is great. Arion is fun.
That's the C one, right?
That's the C one.
With the Arion is the kites, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, those ones are good.
All right. So my next game that I'm going to talk about is an oldie but a goodie, and it's interesting because I'm going to talk about it in this segment because it is one of the games that has ascended. I got Return to Dark Tower back to the table again. It's funny because I want to talk about the story of why we got this to the table. Our friend was complaining because we played, I think it was the Loop. And he's like, oh, it's a little too easy. And I'm like, well, it's because we played the standard game for I can teach you the game. Yep. So we played it on the normal challenge mode and stuff like that. And it's basically just to teach you. And it even says this is going to be the easiest of all the games in here. And so he was complaining he loves those really tough co-op games. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he does.
All right, so I'm going to bring up these co-op games that are really tough. Unfortunately, I don't have Last Bastion or Ghost Story, so I can bring this over to their house. But the wife's like, okay, yeah, we'll figure this out. And so my wife's like, what are your meanest and hardest co-ops? I'm like, any co-op can be hard. Just depends on how you set it up. Right. And so...
Yeah, my first Castle Panic, if you play with 2 monsters a turn, hardest game in the world.
Yeah, so there's ways that you can make things... super hard. It just depends on how... We always just play it on normal mode and stuff like that. Same with Horrified. We only play it normal mode. We play against, I think it's like 2 or 3 monsters. I think it's 3 in the normal mode, yeah.
Yep, 3.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this game over there, because I wanted to get into the table again. I love this game a lot.
Yep.
And so much so we enjoy this game a lot because it's already ascended and it only lasted a year. It went through 1 year of cycles and ascended because
That's
it was
right.
that good of a game.
Yep.
This is Return to Dark Tower.
Yeah, Return to Dark Tower is so good.
The way I set this game up to make it completely and utterly difficult was that I hit fully random on the app. So it randomized the monster, it randomized the foes that we'd be facing, like the big bad and the monsters. And this thing was rough. We ended up winning on the very last turn because the way this guy worked is that if he went over to another territory, he would blow up a building in that territory with one of his cards. And if he sits there for a while, so, and I was playing some of the new characters from the newest expansion because I was like, let's play the base game, but let's play these new characters and see how they work. And I really enjoyed them. One of my characters allowed me to have corruption, and you get bonuses for each corruption card you have in one of your valors. So if I have one corruption, I always have one wild advantage when you're doing checks. And so, yeah, I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. I could hold up to 3 corruption instead of 2. Whenever you get the 3rd corruption, you lose. He liked to hang out in my area once we finally pulled him out, and he was blowing up
cool guy.
Yeah, he was blowing up my buildings to the point where it was ridiculous. I cleared off one of my, because I had stockpiled a bunch of dudes to help fight this guy.
Yeah.
And so one of my special power is that I can sacrifice 10 guys to remove one of my corruptions. He destroyed 4 of my buildings. I was down to my last building and the last chance for me to clear corruption before I lose the game in a sense. And he was bouncing between 2 characters that whole time. And so our friend, she had already lost, or she got 2 corruption because she lost 2 buildings. And my wife had to go in there and fight him. She's like, what do I need to do? I'm like, you need to go. She had the magic carpet so she can fly into this territory. You have to go in there. I think we've done enough damage. And the thing is, when you're fighting the final boss, you don't know. The game will tell you if you succeeded or not. And so I've chunked him. She chunked him. Our friend Angel, he put a lot of thing on there. And then our friend Maria put a lot of on it too. I was like, you have to go in there because if he bounces into my section, or he stays in her section, or if he goes in Angel's section because he's down to 2 corruption, we lose the game. You're the only one that doesn't have corruption because I have 3 sitting on my board. They both have 2 sitting on their boards. So she jumped over there and she picked the cards and she had enough advantages and enough to sacrifice without her having to take a corruption. And she's like, I can't do anymore, so I have to retreat from this battle. I'm like, you got to do what you got to do. And she hit retreat, and it's like, beep, beep. It was like, literally, if it bounced to any of the other locations and triggered when you put the skull in, we would have lost the game. And so it literally was down to the last minute. And it took us nearly 3 hours to be fully random because nothing worked with it. Like the foes were like, one was magic beast and the other one was like undead human or something like that. So that nothing worked with all our advantages. So it was really, really fun to play again.
That's awesome. The last game I wanted to talk about that we've been playing was actually a game that you were part of, and it's unlike a lot of other games that we've played recently. We played as a 4-player game, and one of our guys, he actively argued against us because we were certain we knew what we were talking about.
We played a 3-player.
Was it 3-player?
It was just us 3 because our mutual friend couldn't come.
Oh, that's right. He wasn't there yet. Yeah, or couldn't come. Yeah, so it was us 3, and it was 2 against 1, and we ended up. This is the first game where we've just straight up played it. It's called Unboxed. It's from Wizards of the Coast. No, WizKids. Sorry, not Wizards of the Coast. WizKids. And Unboxed is really simple. The idea is that we're a bunch of artifact hunters.
We're basically archaeologists.
Archaeologists, yes. And
we're archaeology students. We're working with a professor.
Yeah, and we've unearthed like ancient board game components, and unfortunately, paper or papyrus really doesn't last very well. So that all just deteriorated. So all the rules, who knows? So we had to determine from these components how to play the game that it came with. So it's a design. It's a level of design to give people the game components and say, answer these questions. And so there was a number of questions like, how do you win?
How do you set up the board?
How do you set up the board, or what's the optimal way to set up the board? What does a player do on their turn, and how do you know when the game is over? I think something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And we had just a certain number of components, and we had to effectively, as a group, solve this. Now, I won't go into how we solved it, but the first game, it was fairly intuitive, like how we were doing it. The backs of the cards that we had kind of alluded to something, and we set it up, and we're pretty sure it works this way. And our friend was like, I can see it being trolling, and we have to do it a different random way. I think it's this way.
We tried it.
And we tried it, and we're like, that didn't make sense, but let's try it the way we think, and it actually worked as a game.
Like
it's actually a little game I would play.
Yeah.
Like, if I was like, oh, I just happen to have this pack of cards on me and like these tokens, let's just play it real quick. And then it worked.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
It was neat. And so Unboxed, it has a number of scenarios in it. We haven't delved into the other ones yet, but I was really impressed by the first one.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy it. Our friend did not like it.
No.
What did he say? It's like feeling like he had to take a test.
He felt like this was homework.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was like, it's telling me to just look at stuff and figure it out on my, like, I want to play a game, not figure stuff out. And me, I love escape rooms and like
it was a nice little puzzle trying to figure out how the mechanisms work and stuff like that.
Exactly. I attribute this
and it was funny because being around you actually made me better when it came to that game, because I was like, okay, I see what it's trying to do. Yes. I'm understanding the mechanism. I'm never going to be a game designer. I can already tell you that.
Sure.
But it allowed me to understand the way mechanisms work better. And I'm like, when he was saying like, no, you need to mix these up and then boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you think about, you got to think about it like, and I was coming from a historical aspect because I was a history major too. Right. I'm like, you got to realize they didn't have overly complicated games back in the day. It was basically shooting dice or you're rolling moves, just sit it.
Yep.
It's just rolling moves and you're trying to get off the board. Yep. So honestly, if they're going for like that archaeological feel, you're trying to want to be as simple as possible. Yep. This way it could be easily explained, because a lot of these games were basically be played like in caravan routes and stuff like that, just to pass the time as you're going down a caravan. So
that's exactly right. And that's what makes it so interesting is this. We're using that context, right?
Yeah.
And then I was going it entirely from the modern board game context of it, right? I was going, okay, if this played like this way, then, I mean, I wouldn't design it this way, because then you would have extra levels of X memory or whatever, right? And the arguments I had to make for it, I was like, this is why I feel like as a game designer, like I'm all about streamlining and fixing like overly complex rules, like stuff that is just there to be there, right? And so I was like, if it was originally designed how our friend thought of it, how would I fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what we ended with made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But so, Unboxed, WizKids, very unique, but
it's
very
unique. I did like it. I do want to try some of the other games out of it, but
I guess you and I'll just have to play it sometime.
Yeah, like, pretty much. I think our mutual friend Dom would like it.
Absolutely.
I don't think he wasn't there. I don't think he came that night. I think he had to call off that night, but I can check that up real quick.
I'm pretty sure. No, I think he was there.
But
showed up late because it was my pick.
The other game I was trying to remember, it was Earth. That's what I showed to Game Head Geek.
Yep.
And that's when I found out the little tree toppers are not player colors. They're just like different colors for like eggs. So you're only supposed to have 4 sets. I was confused because I'm missing the orange ones. So I emailed Inside Up Games, and just as for all our audience out there too, if you're thinking you're missing a specific colors, no, it's just supposed to be like the eggs and wingspan, just to be different colors. This way you can match it like mushrooms and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they really shouldn't then have
the player colors matching the component colors. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that at all.
See, as a game designer, I wouldn't choose. No.
Yeah, no, he never showed up on that one.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, because it was when we played like World War Z or
World Z League.
Yeah, it was just the three of us.
Right. It was just us three.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've been playing. And now let's get into our debate today.
Nice.
Again, this is going to be the top 8 debate for Blue Orange Games, the publisher here in North America.
And just for our Twitch followers, we're recording this a little earlier, so if you miss anything or want to watch the re-uploads, This will actually air the first week of February. So just let
right.
everybody know. We're just trying to get ahead of ourselves before we leave for Gamma.
That's right. So we always come up with our honorable mentions, but we also put a poll in the Facebook Board Game Revolution forum. We can talk about the honorable mentions here in a bit, but let's talk about what 8 games are against each other.
Mm-hmm.
We have our number 1 seed, King Domino.
Versus our number 8 seed, Cloud City.
Our number 2 seed, Spot It.
Versus our number 7 seed, Goblet.
Our number 3 seed, Planet.
Versus our number 6 seed, Okaya or Naya.
And our number 4 seed, Battle Sheep.
Going up against our number 5 seed, Brave Rats.
Awesome. So those top 8 are the highest 8 ranked on Board Game Geek that Daniel and I have both played. And that's important because when we make our arguments, just like our other debates, we want to make sure that we give a sound argument. So we do not include games that neither of us have played or that are lower than those 8 ranks. We need at least those 8. So there might be some honorable mentions between us that we have played between our
In
audience.
fact, all 3 of my honorable mentions we have played together.
Yes.
It's just...
And all 3 of mine you have not. At least I don't believe so. You might have played one back in the day and just didn't think about it, but
maybe.
we'll see.
I don't remember.
So it's one I've had for a while. So again, we post this on the Board Game Revolution group, and let's talk about the honorable mentions.
All right.
So we have our first one, which is added by Ross Beef or Ross. Museum Suspects.
Which one is this one?
That is the Phil Walker Harding deduction game.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Huh. I did play it.
So you had 12.
I had 12 apparently.
That's right.
But yeah, I did play this one. I think you, me, and our mutual friend Dom played this one, and it was we were trying to figure out who the thief was, right?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of those, but
no, but I'm saying like it's like a fox or something like that, or it's like cutesy animals.
Yeah.
And it's kind of remind me a little bit of like Outfox meets Dinosaur Tea Party.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. So okay.
In a weird way.
Yeah. The next one was added by Tanner, and this was Blue Lagoon.
Reiner Knizia game. It's been interesting. I've been wanting to play it. I have not had the opportunity yet. Added by Tiffany was Photosynthesis.
I actively avoided playing this one.
Why?
Because I heard it's like super mean, and mean games just do not get played with my wife and stuff like that. Okay.
It's not.
I just heard, and she doesn't like anything that has a little bit of that take that aspect to it. So
there's no take that. It's just it's directly, since the sun rotates around the board and creates the light paths.
Yeah.
If I'm in a spot next to you and my tree's taller, then I block the shade from yours.
Okay. I get that, but
it's direct interaction, but I wouldn't say it's take that in any way.
Yeah, it's just that it's those kind of games.
I still don't think she would like it.
Yeah.
At all. In fact, I actively discourage her trying it.
That's the reason why I avoided it, because I knew she wouldn't like it, and it didn't seem anything interesting to me either.
Yep.
So the next one was added by Paul, and this is New York 1901. I remember you owned this, but I don't know if you still
I've never owned this, but I did play it way back in the day.
Okay. The shop had it. That's where I remember seeing it.
Yeah, this one was interesting because a lot of people, like, when it came out, a lot of people attributed it to, like, oh, this is the next Ticket to Ride. This is, like, up there. Because it was also nominated for the Spiel, I think. And a lot of people talked about it. And then I was really excited to play it. When I played it, I was like, oh, that's it? Like, it's just kind of like a polyomino game with and that's about it. It was good. I mean, I get why people like it. Thought it was okay, but it was fine.
And the last one added here by Casper. Oh no, this is you. Go ahead.
And the last one added here by Casper, Detective Club.
I haven't played this one either.
No, but this one looks good.
I heard this one's hard to find.
Yeah, and this was also a recommendation on like a legacy list. A lot of people are giving recommendations for legacy games. I don't think this is a legacy game. I think it's just
it's a campaign style game.
Campaign style deduction game. But yeah, there we go. Those are the ones added on. And then let's talk about our honorable mentions here in a moment.
Because I also told them they did make things out here.
Oh,
so
they did.
Plobe added Detective Club. For me, it's not even remotely close. The next best for me would probably be Queen Domino, and that's merely a good game. I've long loved the style of games where you creatively interpret and try to communicate indirectly to players. What Detective Club does on top of that is implement one of my favorite variants of social deduction, where the social deduction isn't all that off-putting, even to the players who aren't stellar liars. The reason for this is the wacky images. You can get often ridiculous levels of justification, even if you're not the trader, which takes the pressure off the trader player and adds some amazing humor in listening to everybody else's nonsense.
And Jason replied, I think I'll vote for the only one I played. Did not specify which one that is.
Yep.
But sure, that's a good enough reason as any, I suppose.
And when everybody's asking us why King Domino and not Queen Domino on this list,
Yep.
Queen Domino is second on the board game rankings.
The rankings, yep.
However, because even though it's just a slight twist and maybe a little more complex than King Domino was rated higher. So
yes.
Same reason why we don't add all the Shane Phillips on lists.
Yeah, exactly. This is still part of the same series.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it goes off of King Domino Origins would also probably apply to this as well. All right. With that being said, let's talk about our honorable mentions. I have the Coin of Doom. Let's flip it to see who goes first. Here you go, Daniel.
Yeah, it's you.
Me. So the first one I wanted to talk about is a silly, silly game. This is one of the first games I bought a number of years ago, purely just by the concept. I love this idea. This is called Shaky Manor. Now, have I told you about Shaky Manor? Okay. Mm-hmm. So the way this works is simple. You have a box that is made up of 8 rooms, I believe. And some of them have doors in between them, some of them don't. But you basically have it as a big shaking tray. And you have a bunch of different pieces, like a wooden snake that's like all windy and wobbly. You have like a rubbery spider that doesn't move very well when you shake it. You have an eyeball that's like a marble that rolls around like crazy. You have like a witch meeple, and you have like ghost pieces and like all these silly little things. And you flip over a card, and everyone has to shake exactly those pieces to the right room. And knowing how to manipulate each of those pieces separately, mm-hmm. and how to shift them around and make only certain ones go into the room and not others is absolutely hysterical. Like the rubbery spider is so funny because like it has very, very like soft rubber, right? Mm-hmm. But when you move it, it kind of like grinds up against the thing and kind of goes like this, and it shakes as it's going down. It doesn't like slide or glide or any way. So it looks all cattywampus, and it's going, and then you see the eyeball just shoot by because it's rolling, right? And you have all these different textures of different pieces of different weights, and trying to get those into the right manner is just a riot. I've had a lot of fun with this. The components are great. Blue Orange does a great job on that, and I don't remember it being all that expensive. And it's one of the few that have like a little window in the front of it to show off the components, and it works really well because you could literally just grab the box closed and play Shaky Manor. It's great. Such a good idea. I like it a lot. Shaky Manor. That's my third honorable mention.
All right, so I'm actually rating these. Actually, should rate them my favorite to my least favorite in a sense, but I do my least favorite first. The way I wrote it down, it wasn't like that, so I'm just going to go with what I have. But this is my least favorite of the 3 honorable mentions I have. I do like it, which is saying something because if it's my least favorite of my honorable mentions and probably the least favorite on this list, it's because it's also a Phil Walker Harding game, so it's just a bit of a disappointment for me.
Oh, I know which one this is.
I did enjoy the game. It is a good game, but it was a bit of a disappointment. Mm-hmm. And this one's Neoville.
Yeah.
And especially the big problem with this one is that I played it after Cloud City. Mm-hmm. And so Cloud City, another Phil Walker Harding game, is actually really fun, even though it's not very colorblind friendly.
Right, it's really not.
But it's both are like city building in a sense. Yep. One is more you're building like sky bridges and stuff like that, and pattern building in a sense. This Neoville as well. It's pattern building.
Yep.
Because you're trying to make a good large connection because you want to have like the largest amount of desert or whatever style brick, grasslands, whatever. Because if you have the largest one, you can claim one of the larger buildings, and that's going to score you more points at the end of the game. Right. And it does some other little cool stuff that I like, but as a whole package, I was like, this is really super complicated for a Phil Walker Harding game. Yep. I do enjoy it. I still rate it probably about a 6. I think when we did our Phil Walker Harding rating, I think it was one of our lower games.
It was.
I think it's fine.
One of the lowest.
The lowest, yeah, because we did like 23 games or something like that of the Phil Walker Harding games. And this was down there in the 20s. I think it was either 20 or 21. It was down there. I think only one other game really that comes to the top of my mind was worse than this one when we did the Phil Walker Harding.
Yep.
But it's a fine game. I do like it enough. I mean, I don't actively dislike any Phil Walker Harding game other than one. But I keep it in my collection because it's so hard to find. But I haven't picked this one up. I don't know. If I catch it on a deal, I probably would. But I say at least give it a try, especially if you're not having issues like we do with color blindness. You might enjoy it. It's a nice little city building.
And this one is not nearly as bad as one that we're going to be debating.
Yeah, Cloud City is pretty bad about it. And it's weird that both of these came from the same company, from the same designer.
At almost the same
time. Yeah. But this one, it didn't hit like I wanted to. But it is fun. I still rate it a 6.
Yeah, cool. The next one on my list is that I wanted to talk about. Or did we want to flip the coin each round?
Don't matter.
Don't matter. Let's just continue carrying on. The next one I want to talk about. My next honorable mention is probably one of the more unique, strange games that I've ever had, and I've always liked this concept. It doesn't sound like it's going to work, and my description will not make any sense as I'm explaining it. But just go with it because it'll make sense here in a bit. It's called Wink. And the idea is every turn you take, you will have potentially a new secret partner somewhere around the table. That only you know who that partner is, and at some point before your next turn, you must give them the information of what that you are their hidden partner without being seen by any other person. So how this works is pretty simple. You have I think 36 cards in the middle. They're just numbered 1 through 36, and you deal some out. I think everyone has 4. On your turn, you move your pawn onto one of the spaces. That tells me, let's say I put it on number 25. Mm-hmm. If someone's holding the number 25, they are my secret partner for that turn. So I need to figure out who that is before it comes back to my turn, because I need to then guess. If I find out that it's you, then I'm going to guess your number, and then we both get points for getting it correctly. So it behooves you to tell me. It's beneficial to me. However, if at any point, and the way you clue them in is simply at some point, right? You wink at them, or you clue them. You don't kick them under the table or anything, right? You don't make it obvious.
You have to make it where everybody can see it.
Could potentially see it, right? And now you could do other things, you could just look at each other and and make it try and allude to it as best as you can. But again, if anybody else sees that, then they can be like, I think I just saw that. And if they're correct, and I was your partner, then they steal both cards. And so it's even better. But at the same time, let's say that's the case, and Daniel is my secret partner because I put my pawn on him, and I need to figure that out sometime. What if somebody else's pawn is on my card that I'm holding? I have to then clue them before their turn while I'm looking for his, while everyone else is looking at everybody. Oh my god, it's hilarious. This game has no right being as fun as it is, but it's a game you play almost entirely silently, and then as soon as somebody goes, caught you, and then everyone, ha ha ha, and then I look over, real quick before everyone stops laughing, right? Because that's your opportunity. There's your window. You try to ease the tension and clue them off before anybody else notices. It's so wild. This game shouldn't work, but it works so well every time I've played it.
Still haven't played it.
Would you play it based on that description? It's absurd.
It seems absurd, yeah.
It really is, and it's just, as long as you go into it knowing, this is probably going to be the dumbest game I've ever played, and in a really weird way, it's a riot. Wink.
Alright, so the next game I'm going to talk about is my favorite of the honorable mentions, and the reason why I put it here is because I vaguely remember it. Again, I don't play nearly as many Blue-Orange games as you do, and a lot of these games I haven't played in a long time, except for maybe 2 of them, including, actually 3 of them, because 1 is just recently played. But this one is Pappy Winchester. I like this game for what it does. It's a really good little bluffing game. It's a little good bidding game. You're trying to bluff. Is your bid going to be bigger and stuff like that? Because it's kind of a little area control, because you're basically going to be scoring based on the movements of the train or the boat, depending on what's going there. So you're trying to okay, how do I figure this out? How do I do this? Really great components, even though the train is kind of a little flimsy.
Sure.
But I really did have fun with this one. You know this one a little bit better than I do, because for some reason you have a vast knowledge of 2,000 games in your brain for some reason. But no, I like it. I'm not a huge auction fan, which is funny because it's my pick this week. And one of the games I'm picking is an auction game.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. I am garbage at auction games, but I sure do like them.
What I found out, especially this one, I'm looking forward to playing. I know it's a Knizia game, but it's a closed economy, so all the money that we start with is all the money that's going to be played in the entire game.
Okay.
And so whenever you win an auction, you're splitting the money with the other players in that group.
I like closed auctions.
Yeah.
Those are really fun.
Yeah, so I think that one's going to be interesting. I do like that part of auction because now I know, all right, they have all this because I just bid that. Okay, so maybe I don't want to make it too rich for my blood in the next round when I do a next auction and stuff like that. This one doesn't have that closed system, but it still plays pretty well and pretty tight. And I remember playing this with our mutual friend Jim, and it's funny because we made the joke. I'm like, Jim, you just need to get a little bit more white beard, and you look like Pappy Winchester on the cover.
It really does, yeah.
But no, it's a fun game. I do like this one a lot. I remember having a great time with it. Yeah, I somehow ended up winning. I don't know how I did that, but I remember enjoying this, and not just because of the win. I just thought, for an auction game, this is not bad.
No, what it does differently is just so strange, right?
The fact that it's an auction game with a little area control, but it all depends on where the things are moving to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because you have a boat going down
the river,
the river, which is halfway through the board. You have a train track that's crossing that one in the opposite direction. And then you have different things like tavern or whatever, different regions that can score in different ways. You're also trying to group certain ones together, and these all get auctioned off at entirely different times. So you're
trying to set yourself up for a later turn or this current turn because this is about to score, but it's like But if I play my cards right, I go over this way, and I know I'll get more points if I win or go that way instead.
Right. Because, I mean, if you're bidding next to the train track and you're trying to group yours together, that's a totally different thing if the train is gone versus if it's coming right up because it's going to score. That's a totally different auction all of a sudden. And it's all just how the random... And normally, the random lots being auctioned off shouldn't work either, right? But this pulled it off really well. Makes it a dynamic market.
So, like I said, we did it, and we should revisit this again when we did a Chits and Giggles, the exception to the rule type thing.
Yeah.
Because this could be an exception to the rule. I'm not a big auction fan. I think at that time, auction bidding for me was for sale.
Yep.
This is up there with for sale. I don't think it unseats for sale, but I do like this one a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it does either, but it's up there. Cool. The last one I wanted to talk about is yet another ridiculous dexterity game.
Wait, you talked Wink. What was your second one?
The first one that I talked about was Shaky Manor.
Oh, that's right. You started.
Yes, yeah, I started. Normally I just ask you.
Yeah.
The last one I wanted to talk about today was another silly dexterity game that's quite simple. It's called Slide Quest. Have you seen this one?
I have. I think you were showing this at the shop at one point, and you tried to get me to play it. I'm like, no, I'm going to go over here and play this game instead.
Like a real game. No, I don't think I've brought it to the shop, actually. So the way this works is pretty simple. Have you ever played the old school Labyrinth?
Oh, yeah. I was getting this one mixed up with the draw and write.
Oh, yeah. No drawing in this one. That's something similar. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But Slide Quest... It plays effectively like an old school Labyrinth. Like the wooden box, you have the knobs on X and Y axis. Mm-hmm. You try and get the marble not falling in the holes, get it throughout the maze and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this works like that, except the way they handle it is that there's a plate inside of the box bottom itself, and this box bottom has a bunch of different holes depending on the overlay you put on it. There's 25 overlays that you could put, all that do different things. So you put the overlay on it, and you put your pawn, which has a marble inside of it, so it can slide no problem. And you have to put it on one spot, and then on all four sides there is a little, kind of like a little lever that you put on it. So if it's 2 players, you each get 2 levers. 3 players, one player gets 2. 4 players, everyone gets a lever on each side. And you are cooperatively trying to get this pawn slid down the path, avoiding the holes.
I played this one.
You have?
Yeah,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, because we played it 5 levels, right? Yeah.
And I think I played this also in at Dice Tower West because it was
maybe
2019 or something like that when this.
Yeah, and everyone's just kind of pushing a little bit on the lever, trying to get it balanced.
But you don't want it to fall in the hole, or you don't want something to hit you either.
And not only is it just that, it's not just Labyrinth. There's a bunch of scenarios. It's themed like a video game. It's not really, but there will be one where there'll be a little a red cylinder, and it'll say that's a dynamite stick. Do not drop that.
Yeah,
If that tips over, you lose because it explodes. Or you have to get like a certain monster into a hole, or like certain monsters into certain holes, trying to defeat them. It's so dumb and silly, but man, does it work well. And it's great components. It works. If you like the idea of that, I mean, I can understand why some people wouldn't. But man, we've had so much fun just playing it. It's silly. And if your piece ever falls over, then you're just out.
Yeah.
Because they collapsed under their tiredness or something. They play into the humor really well. It works really well. I can't recommend this one enough.
And it's one of those things we always talk about. What a good thing about board games do. Sometimes it gives you that toy factor, and this one is up there on that toy factor.
Yes, it does.
All right, so speaking of toy factor, this is kind of there, but not as much. This is the more recent one we played. I used to own it, but and I could never get it off my shelf of shame, so I ended up selling it before playing it. Our mutual friend had it on his shelf, and he wanted to get played, so we ended up playing it recently. I did enjoy it. I'm just glad I don't own it anymore, because in all honesty, it would not get played. It shouldn't work like it does. It's a roll and move, pick up and deliver game, and this is called Dragon Market. But the reason why this does work is because of the manipulation that you have to do. So we're just basically pawns, basically workers who have to go out there and pick up the things based on our card and deliver them back to our port. But what happens is you're going to roll 2 dice, and it averages out between, I think it's like 6 to 8, but what'd you say, it's like 6.23 or something like that average?
It's like 3 2/3.
Yeah, so
the average.
You're gonna somehow either score 6 or 7, sometimes an 8, and you can only move that way. But you're not just moving your pawn in a space; you're also moving the boats or turning the boats. But the boats can't hit things, and you cannot jump over the boat driver. So you have to manipulate the board and change it to get to where you need to go to get that certain resource, because the first person to turn in 2 cards wins the game. It's basically a simple little race, roll and move, pick up and deliver. All those things work really well in other games, but for some reason it worked really well all together in this
much
game.
Better in this one.
Yeah, that you would not expect, especially when you're thinking like roll and move and pick up and deliver. I'd be like, someone could get like super lucky and be able to boom, boom, boom across the board. This one, the way you have to use your movements to manipulate the boats to get to where you need to go. Yep. And it's like you have boat drivers at the end of the boats, and there's also boat drivers that are in the middle of the boats, so you can never jump over them. So you have to manipulate it a certain way for you to get off that boat, get onto the other boat, and then somehow make it up to the other side of that same boat. This way you can manipulate it to keep going to where you need to go. And so there was points where I'm like, I have to go all the way over there, and then you took that and moved it all the way to the back side of the board. Now I have to find a way to get over there, grab that, put it on this thing, and then come over here to turn all this stuff in, because you're trying to collect all 4 of your components, and then go back to your space, and then deliver it. And then you get another card, and you have to go collect another 4 components, and get back to that space to win. Yep. This actually got down to the wire in that 3-player game too, because I was down to, like, I just needed to get back to my thing to turn it in.
Well, down to the wire for you and our friend.
Yeah.
I was far from.
No, you weren't that far.
I just started my second card.
You had already picked up 2 of the pieces. Because you got lucky enough with your second card. Your first 2 pieces were on the same boat.
Yeah, but the second, they were on the same
boat.
The
other
boat,
2
but they
pieces
were on
my side of the board.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we were getting pretty close. I liked what it did, but again, it just wouldn't get played in this house. So if he wants to keep his copy, I'd be more than happy to play it. I did enjoy it enough.
Cool deal. All right, so let's get into our actual debate. Those were our honorable mentions. Let's talk about how the debate works. Simple. We took the top 8. We'd already talked about that. We're going to debate this over 5 criteria. We're going to debate the game over ease of play, which is the first of our criteria. It's basically understanding how simple or familiar the mechanisms are. That's a good plus for it. The likelihood to get it to the table, whether that's the mechanisms, how simple it is, or even the theme.
Yeah.
And then finally, how easy is it to learn, understand, and to teach to other people? That helps decide how easy the game is.
This is going to be tough for us. Because Blue Orange is very good about making the games teachable.
They do a very good job of that.
That part right there would be hard for it. And the next criteria we have is replay value. the length of time and scaling well. This is going to be another hard one here because Blue Orange games tend to hit like a really simple length of time.
Yep.
Minimum number of plays for the full experience. And expandability, what we mean by this is already existing expansions up to one possible future expansion, because if it has Volume 1, we're assuming there's going to be a Volume 2, or confirmed by the designer or the publisher.
Yep. And then we have meaningful choice. The impact on other players' strategies, your overall depth of tactics, strategies, or skills, and do arbitrary choices or AP affect your gameplay? That's a detractor from this.
All right, and what we mean by like arbitrary choices are like if all the moves are really good, is it just like, okay, I'm just going to do this because I'm still going to get...
Does your choices really truly matter during the game?
Yeah. And the next category is game immersion. Is the game fun to lose? Are you having a good time even though you're getting your butt whooped? Yep. Player interaction. This includes table talk, trash talking, role-playing your character. In memorable moments, those stand-up moments that make you shout.
Yep. And then finally, there's art and production. This is the art, the graphic design, and the pieces and components, which we already discussed. Blue Orange tends to have really good stuff, but every once in a while they have a miss, and we'll talk about those when it comes to it.
And a big one for us is the graphic design part of it. We're colorblind, so it's just rough for us if they don't be colorblind friendly. And one knock about Blue Orange is even to this day, they're still not the best when it comes to colorblind compared to other companies.
Yep.
And when all else says and fails, and if we can never come to a consensus even after all those choices, we put up a poll on the Board Game Revolution community group on Facebook, and you can vote on, because your vote is important, it is the tiebreaker. If we can't come to the consensus, you decide which moves on.
And finally, the way this works is simple. We're going to break down each of them head-to-head battle, our top seed versus our lowest seed. We'll flip the coin of doom, we'll pull from the cup of doom, and that decides who debates first and for which game. Shall we begin, Daniel?
Let us shall.
All right, our first round is King Domino versus Cloud City. Here we go.
That was me.
I biffed it totally. It's your go.
I get Cloud City.
All right.
So let's get the cat out of the bag when it comes to this game. The colorblind friendly, not so much. I am
terribly unfriendly.
I'm going to totally put the graphic design to King Domino right out the gate.
Right off the bat.
The components quality, though,
is great.
Really great. I love the little sky bridges that you're doing in this game. Because the whole point of this game is you're trying to put is it a 4x4 grid, if I remember correctly?
It depends on the player count.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. It depends on the player count. But you're building basically a grid, and you're trying to set up enough space between your buildings. So if I'm building a 2-space, then my bridge is not going to be very long. But if I have a 4 or a 5 building, that space is going to be really wide, so I got to make sure there's nothing that's going to block it, so I can't put another 4x4 intersecting it.
Yep.
But I could put like a 3 bridge that can go under it. I love that concept, and I love the way the game looks after we're done building, because it's just like all these little random sky bridges across the game. You have a 2 under a 3, and then a 4 towering over everything else. I love the way this game looks, and it plays pretty simple. Out of the two, I guess, building base games of Phil Walker Harding, this is the better one, even though the big knock of is the colorblind friendliness of it. It's also one of the harder games to teach, so that is a little strange, it's a little strange because the way you do it, because you're basically drafting these tiles, and then you can decide, okay, I can put this building here, and now that these buildings are in the same space, I can place a bridge on there. And you're basically just trying to accrue the most points, and it's based on the bridge spaces. So I think like a 2 is like a 2-pointer. But if you build a 4 space, because it's going to be a wider berth, that's going to give you like 8 points or something like that. And so the scoring is a little wonky, but once you understand how this works, okay, like I need to make sure.
Longer the bridge, more points.
But it is a fun game. I'm not really doing it justice with this debate because, in all honesty, it is much more of a game of than King Domino, but King Domino is so simple.
Yeah, and you haven't brought up one very valid point to it, is that there's 3 different heights of the buildings, and that's one of the biggest factors, is that...
I said the 2, the 3s, and the 4s.
Well, that's the length.
Yeah, but those are the heights, too.
Yeah, so, there's the 3 different heights, and the way you can build the bridges underneath or over other bridges, but you can't build them on the same level.
Yeah.
So knowing which tile you put down, there's always 2 a minimum, or there's always 2 towers that go on it at different heights, and you have to kind of plan that accordingly.
You do want to space them out as much as you do, because the longer bridge you get, the more points you're going to get.
Yep.
But you do have like the different heights, so you can build over something, but you can't basically put them in a perpendicular aspect.
Right.
I did mention that.
And it's worth noting too that if what we're describing doesn't make sense, go look at a picture of this because it's absolutely cool looking when it's done.
It's one of the best looking games when it's fully built, because it's just like, that is so weird and so random, but that graphic design though.
Yeah, it hurts. So King Domino, this is a Spiel des Jahres winner, and so therefore I'm already on board for it. I've always appreciated the Spiel des Jahres winners, and I think that this absolutely deserved it for a reason. This is a tile laying game, and each of your tiles are dominoes. They're numbered, I think, up to 48, and there's different ones for each of them. And they have different terrain types. Yep, there's different terrain types. There's like grasslands and wheat fields and water and caverns and all these different types, right? And so the way it works is pretty simple. On your turn, you move your pawn to a tile, and the pawn that it, or the meeple, sorry, move it from one tile to another. The one that it was on, you're going to place that into your realm. You have to put at least one of the spaces next to an adjacent one of the same color. And you're effectively building a 5x5 grid. However you end up building it is up to you. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to group like groups together. Because a lot of the tiles have crowns on them. And at the end of the game, each group will be all of the adjacent squares of that type. So let's say like all of the farmlands. You count up all those times the number of crowns that are on inside of that group. So if there's 3 collective crowns, let's say there's 2 on one tile, 1 on another, and you are able to combine those, then that's how many points that group is worth. It would be like, let's say 5 tiles, 3 crowns, 15 points. So you do that for every single group you have. Some of the more rare ones, like the caverns, have a lot of crowns on them, but they're not very common to find the tiles themselves. There's some that are incredibly abundant, but the crowns are very sparse on those.
Okay.
And you have to play effectively. Now, what makes this really interesting, though, is that there's always 4 tiles that are face up, and when it's your turn, the turn order is decided by whichever tile is closest to the box. Let's say I have my pawn there, then you, then our friend Dom. I would pick the next tile, which are put in numerical order, that I want to pick, which will then determine the next turn order. So if I put mine on the 3rd tile, I will likely be playing 3rd on the very next round. So that's what makes it really fascinating, is that you move it over, you see how everyone else moves it. So sometimes you might want to get a better pick, and you might take a less prominent tile than you would normally want to, just because you're like, okay, I don't have many good options. I want to be able to choose my next tile on the next one because I'm running low on resources here.
Okay.
It works really well.
It does. It's a very
functionally smart, and it did win the Spiel for a reason.
And it's Cathala.
And it's Cathala, and that's like one of your favorites. And that's one of your favorite designers versus one of our favorite designers.
And the thing is, I prefer Cloud City over King Domino.
Sure.
But there is a reason why King Domino is just so popular.
It is. Yeah, there very much is. So I think, let's break it down just real quick, because we gotta. Yeah. Art and production, King Domino.
King
obviously.
Domino, yeah.
Even without the colorblind friendliness, the thickness of the tiles are really gratifying.
Well, yeah.
Ease of play.
That's King Domino.
You think so?
It's much simpler.
Yeah.
The scoring alone is complicated in Cloud City. It's simple enough, but compared to King Domino.
Yeah, it's true. That's multiplying. Replay value. There is one expansion for King Domino, and it has the sequel Queen Domino, and it has King Domino Origins. So they both play 2 to 4, I believe.
Yep. Isn't there like a King Domino duel too? Where you
yes, there is. There's a roll and write. Yeah. So as far as the ones in the series, they're both quick. They're both simple. They both play the same player count. So we got to go by expandability.
Yeah.
Play King Domino.
King Domino.
Which. Okay.
Yeah, it gives it to it.
I guess we don't need to break it down.
Game immersion, I would say that would probably, for me, that would go to Cloud City, because that game is fun to lose. You're having some good interaction.
Yeah, and just the board layout at the end.
Yeah,
like,
how
it feels
looks
really cool.
But I do have to say, like, the meaningful choice, that I think those are the 2 that I would give to Cloud City.
Yes.
Meaningful choice and game immersion, but everything else is straight up King Domino.
Absolutely. Cool.
All right, King Domino, moving on.
All right. So our next one, will be Spot It versus Goblet.
One of these games I really love.
And I know which one that is. All right, I'll be starting us off.
And you get Goblet.
All right. So, Goblet. This is a abstract strategy. It's like a Connect 4 kind of thing. You're trying to... It's like memory meets tic-tac-toe is the best way I can describe it. You're trying to get 3 of your pieces in a row. I'm sorry, 4 pieces in a row. Whether it's a square, a straight line, or diagonally. The first person to get 4 of their pieces in a row, regardless of whose turn it is, wins. And how does that happen? Well, it's simple.
And this is the reason why I love this game.
These pieces are effectively the top halves of nesting dolls, right? There is a number of cups inside of each other. I think there's
3 of each, 3 or 4 of each size.
I think there's 4 of each of the 3 sets,
yeah.
right? And they're all like our colors. So the smallest piece sits in the furthest inside, and it gets a little bit bigger, and they're basically like cups. So I can, on your turn, you move one of your pieces, either moving it from the supply that you have in front of you, which you can only take the outside one, so you start off playing the biggest cups first, or you can move one from one space to another on the board. Now, the reason that matters is because if you put out one of your somewhat smaller pieces, I can take my big piece and cover it up. But then you have to remember that, because you can even put one of your bigger pieces on top of and covering up one of your smaller pieces on purpose, because then later on that prevents them from capturing it themselves. And so let's say, for example, if I had a dark piece, a light piece, a dark, and I'm the light player, if I lift up that light piece that's in between and that reveals
a dark
piece underneath, my opponent wins immediately, just because I revealed that, and that takes place before I put the other cup down.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it that extra level. It's normal. It's kind of a simple abstract strategy.
You have to remember what you're doing, what you placed over. So it's like a cross between Connect 4, memory, and just a outright, like, not chess, but like checkers or something like that. Because you're playing over that grid and you're moving pieces.
Yep. So anytime that you don't capture a piece, but every time you encase another player's piece, that can still come back. Like, there's nothing that's removed from the board. So it's really interesting how it works. That's Goblet. Great pieces. The original version of it came in an all wooden box.
I love that version. I have the mini version still. I gave my big version to my buddy because he was playing it with his son.
Oh, sure.
I told him when they got stuck in the hospital. I'm like, knock yourself out. And he's like, hey, can I give this back to you? I'm like, no, keep it. I have the smaller version, so...
Yeah, you don't need the big version.
Yeah, and your son likes it a lot.
They even have a kid's version where instead it's like a 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But like you put out like the wooden sticks to make it look like a tic-tac-toe board, right? They just cross each other. And then but they have goofy faces on the cups themselves. It's really cool.
No, I do like this game a lot. But speaking of a really simple game, Spot It.
Spot It.
This is probably the simplest game on the list because if I remember correctly, and I haven't played this one in years, this is probably one of the first games I ever played in this hobby. Have you ever played I Spy on a road trip? This is basically how you play this game. It's because something's going to come up, and they have to be the first one to find it on that card. And I can't remember how the scoring works because it's just been that long.
Well, so there's 5 different ways to play Spot It.
That's true.
And every card has exactly one picture that matches every other card.
That's right. You have to find the...
Yeah, so there's always going to be 2 pictures that match, and somehow mathematically. I've watched a video of a mathematician actually breaking down mathematically how it works, and I still don't understand it. And I watch those videos a lot, and I get most of them, but man, this one just breaks my brain. But yeah, so the way I prefer to play is there's one card in the middle that we all deal to, but we all flip over our stack at the same time, and as soon as the first player finds the match, so let's say I say, oh, 3-leaf clover, I deal mine on top of it.
Yeah, and now someone has to find the match.
Anybody else can
and it's
find
the first one out.
First one out.
Yeah.
Wins. Yeah.
And so it's basically I Spy, but in a board game form. And so, like, when you're playing I Spy with your kids on a road trip or something, like I Spy with my little eye, something yellow, they have to figure out what you spot. And it's the same thing with this one, because you have to spot the clover.
Yep.
The big thing about this game is this had a plethora, not really of expansions, but standalone
versions.
stuff. Versions. So you had, like, Spot It, like... think at one point there was like a Bluey or something like that, or like a Blue's Clues.
Oh
one.
yeah,
And,
I've seen like NHL. I've
Yeah.
seen like all sorts of
logos and stuff like that.
Yep.
So like company logos. There's just a bunch of Spot-its on this. It's a very simple game that you can play with kids, and because of the different variants, you can make it really easy to play with kids, or more complicated as they get older. Like when your preferred play meant, and that's what you taught me. That's why I was like, I remember that because I remember you have a deck of cards and you have to match something. Like I said, it's been a very long time since I played Spot-It.
Sure.
But I like I said, I threw you a bone for this one.
That's fine.
But I do like this one a lot. It is by far one of the easiest games that you're ever going to play. This is, and it's going up against Goblet. You can actually play this with younger audience. If for an abstract strategy, you can play that easily with a 7-8-year-old, because if they play Connect 4, they kind of know how this is, and they just have to learn the nesting doll mechanism.
Now, just to clarify real quick, for our European listeners, because we do have quite a few, this is Dobble in Europe.
Yeah, Dobble?
Dobble.
Dobble, yeah.
Yeah, and Dobble...
In America, we call it Spot-It.
Right, and this was originally Blue Orange Games, and it was bought by Asmodee.
Yeah, and then...
its own game.
It's not even getting printed anymore.
Oh, sure it is.
No, they announced after COVID they weren't going to print it out for a while.
Oh, well, no, it's back. I'm sure it's in publication right now.
But yeah, no, it's a fine game. I like it a lot. But for me, I honestly think Goblet should move on. And the reason why, I give Ease of Play hands down to Spot-It. It's one of the simplest games. I could even give it replay value just based on all the little different stuff. But the meaningful choice of how you move your pieces and trying to remember everything is in Goblet.
Right.
Game immersion is just much more.
That's the one I want us to talk about. Okay. I mean, because I agree, art production is Goblet, meaningful choice is Goblet, and
especially that wooden version.
Yes, that wooden version is fantastic. However, the thing is, I do think Spot-It should move on, and that's because of the game immersion. Anybody who plays it is getting into the fundamental not everybody likes a really deep strategy game like Goblet. And not a lot of people like memory nearly as much, But the thing is that exciting, speed, I know it's silly and stuff, but that's something, since it's so simple, a lot of people can be like, oh wow, is it fun to lose? Yeah, because you're saying, how are you figuring these out? They'll be like, lightning bolt, snowflake, snowman, all these, and you're watching them and you freeze up and you're like, how are you doing? And you just forget that you're looking at yours. It's silly. I've always had fun. And one of the things about it, though,
it's not fun for me to lose in that game. Because
everyone else who I've ever played with it is totally fine with that. And I get why you're not.
No, it's just because I'm not a good speed gamer, and I don't see patterns and stuff like that. And so it takes people out of it. And I've played games of Spot-It originally, because you showed this a lot at the shop when I first got into it.
Mm-hmm.
When I played it, there's not a lot of talking in there, too. So you're not really getting into the player interaction part of it.
Well, you don't have time to talk. Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's more interactive, but the fact is,
And I've had more memorable moments in Goblet because when you...
Sure.
Oh, crap, I forgot about that.
You lift up the cup, sure. But just that speed, I mean, there's a reason why speed is played with cards. Or there's those fast games like Spoons and the classic games that kids and families are familiar with.
No, but that doesn't go into the game immersion part of it.
No, that gives it into the excitingness of it, because every single time if you're done the last cards, boom, 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 done, got it, and then people hands up and they love it. I mean, I'm not saying just from my own experience. I mean, I like both of them quite a bit. I'm saying from every other player I've seen play it.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of people play, but I've also seen a lot of people play Spot-It in Goblet, and I've known
the vast majority of people don't sit there and just go oh, I hated that.
Because of I mentioned this. I gave my wooden copy to my buddy who plays it with his son. I literally gave them Spot-It because this is one of his first birthday gifts, and at 5. He wasn't a fan of that game, but he liked Goblet a lot. So
you play with some grumpy people, because everyone else who I've shown Spot-It to has that right. And there's a reason why anybody who's not a gamer, if I'm like, hey, just come play a game, Spot-It's one of my first go-to because of that reason. It just works. So I'm willing to call it a wash since you're not backing down.
I'm not backing down.
We'll refresh it. We'll see who gets past
Spot-It
it.
is at 4%. Goblet is at 3%, so Spot-It moves barely.
Barely moves on. All right. Now, with that being said, I do prefer Goblet. 'Cause I love abstract strategy games. I really do think it has its place being up there. All right, our next round, Planet versus Okaya, or also known as Naya here in the United States.
Where is it?
Here we go. Yes, Craig, you would probably be way too good at that game. I couldn't agree more. Here we go. You're starting us off.
And I get Planet. Well, I'm kind of glad I got Planet because I remember this one a little bit better. I had to actually refresh myself on Naya because, again, it's one of those games that I have not played in quite a bit. But with Planet, one, I have to say this for sure. When it comes to art and production, Planet blows Naya. Now, Naya is nice. It has those nice tiles. It has a beautiful art on those cards.
That's really hard to say.
But that world thing that you're doing on Planet,
yes,
it's just...
There is one big knock to the production of Planet, which we'll talk about in a bit, but go ahead and make your argument first.
But just by that component, that toy factor we've been mentioning, when people see us playing that game, they stop. They stop and look like, what is going on over here? I remember playing this game in the shop and actually made people stop at the table to see what we're playing. And I played this at a convention one time, and again, it stopped people. And this is like when it was fairly new. And at its core, it's basically a pattern building game. You're trying to make good habitats. You want to build like a large ice cap, or you want to build a large savanna and stuff like that, because different things are coming out in the cards that are going to score different ways. So it's like, okay, and I think it's drafting if I remember correctly, because you're trying to pull like a certain piece out before someone else can block you from getting it. And so it's just kind of like, okay, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it here, but you only have a certain amount of spaces. So it's like, if I really concentrate on the polar ice caps, I know I could probably win there, but I have to make sure I'm concentrating on the other stuff here too. So just that meaningful choice when you're trying to figure out how you're going to build your pattern and get your scoring mechanism going, but also trying to make sure you're not your opponents are not having good turns too, is like, I want to be really good in the ice caps, but I gotta make sure, and some of them have like multiple pieces on them, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna put this on the ice cap, and then this goes with my savanna over here. It's a little weird, but okay, yeah, that works.
Sure.
And so you're building like, it's almost...
Hey, the Antarctica is still a desert, you know, that's fine.
It's a tile placement game in a sense, but you're playing it on that dodecahedron and making this little cool pattern to get your good scoring combinations based on the scoring cards that are out there. And I think you only play until the planets are full, right?
Yeah, everyone will get all 12 sides.
Yeah, so there is some variability on this one too, just by basically what the scorecards come out and how things get drafted. I do like this game a lot. It's not something I keep in my system because my wife didn't care much for it, but I did enjoy playing this one because I love pattern building games, and the way this one worked is like, okay, gotta keep rolling this around. Okay, here we go. This is where I'm gonna go. It's probably one of the best looking games on this list. Naya's gorgeous, but this is really, really good looking, and especially because we talk about it with like Everdell. That tree, even though it's like the clunkiest piece you're ever going to see, it's going to get people to come to the table and try to figure out what you're playing, and sometimes that's very important for this hobby.
It will, but unlike Everdell, this is very functional. Yes, and it works really well.
So for me, I think Planet should move on as much as I like Naya. It's just that one, you can get more people to play this one too. And Naya is basically a 2-player game.
No, I mean, it scales, of course. Yeah, definitely scales more. Twice as many players, literally.
2 to 4.
Yeah, so Naya is a strategy game by Bruno Cathala, which we spoke about earlier.
He works a lot with Blue Orange.
He does. And the way this works is pretty interesting. You have only 16 tiles, and those 16 tiles, you each have 8 poker chips. Absolutely stellar production on this. Like the poker chips, they're big, thick plastic pieces, and they're screen printed with full color images on it.
This is another like Connect 4.
It is another Connect 4 because you literally win when you either get 4 in a row in a straight line or a 2x2 grid. And the way it works is quite simple. It is an abstract game where the first player takes any tile and replaces it with their disc. Then they set that tile aside. All of these tiles have 2 different kinds of attributes. They have like a background and a foreground thing. So if mine says like birds and it has like rain in the background, then that means that the next tile you could place one of your pieces on, or replace one of your pieces, has to either have rain or have a bird.
The next player.
Yeah, the next player. And so my tile that I chose determines how you can place.
Mm-hmm.
So for that example, let's say they put on a rainy one with leaves on it. So they set it aside. I can now put on anything with rain or leaves. Well, rain has already been used twice, so there's fewer options, but leaves are still there.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I want to get it optimally because I never want to give that point where I put down a piece that will give you the opportunity to get one of those winning conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I need to force you into a move that would allow me to have a winning condition. And that is incredibly valuable.
I know, I think that's really smart.
I think, personally, this is the most strategic game on this
is.
entire debate, by far. It is the least...
I do like this one a lot. I had to remember it because I haven't played it in ages.
No, and it works really well. There was this guy, I forget his name, but he's a really big person in the comic book industry. Do you remember his name? He was at one of the first conventions in El Paso.
Well,
since they started.
Do you know? I need more.
I don't remember what comics he was involved in. I just remember his name was. He was a pretty well known. It's like Stan Lee, except like B movie Stan Lee kind of thing.
Oh, so the older guy.
Yes.
Steve Ditko.
No.
Who was the other one? Because Jai Lee is the only other one I can remember.
No, it was somebody else. But there was a person who was pretty big in the community. Forgive me, I don't know much about comics, so I don't know much of it.
I think it was...
that year, at our convention, I was pushing around the games because I was bringing a whole bunch of games to demo and all that stuff. And I remember my boss coming up, and this gentleman who was like doing autographs and all that stuff for like all the fans. I personally didn't know who he was because I wasn't into comic books.
It was Steve Ditko.
It was not.
It wasn't Jack Kirby.
It wasn't him either. No, I would have recognized the name. But it wasn't any of those guys. But the thing is, he was already done like signing autographs, and he was just kind of hanging out. And we started talking about games, which is something he didn't know much about. And so him and I ended up playing Naya together on his signature booth, which was hilarious.
It wasn't Brett Booth, was it?
It wasn't Brett Booth. No, he wasn't an artist. It was like a creative guy. Like you know how Stan Lee, like he never.
Steranko.
Steranko. That's it. Yes. Wow, that was a long way to get there. Thank goodness you had that poster there. Yeah, Steranko. Yeah, he was just done, and so we started having a conversation about games, and to show him like why games are so awesome nowadays, I showed him Naya, and he was fascinated by it. Like that might have got this.
He also loved the art on that too.
He did. He loved the art, and so the only reason why I think that this genuinely gives art and production a run for its money is because the biggest component of Planet is it's a magnetic dodecahedron, and the tiles have magnets on them. And when you're shuffling those tiles, it makes it so infuriating to try and shuffle magnets.
But that...
in a reason, like you can't just like shuffle like normal because they're all stuck together.
Honestly,
they're magnets.
I say with that, you just put them in a bag.
But they're still stuck together. You have to be like, all right, I'll pull this one randomly. There you go, and then I'll pull this one. And just pull them out. It's frustrating. Other than that, though, that's really my only knock to it. I think this is, as far as meaningful choice, Naya wins that one. And even if I gave art and production to Naya for that reason, I still think Planet wins all the others.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
Yeah, and you know I'm a sucker for tile laying, so I got to give it to Planet. All right, Planet moves on.
And you're building a planet. You're literally...
quite literally. And, I mean, 3D tiling is so good. So good.
So, coming to the category of, I barely remember these games at all, because, again, one of them... Actually, both of these, I haven't played in like 10 years.
Oh, boy. This is Battle Sheep versus Brave Rats.
And you'll be going first. And I will say this. One thing about Battle Sheeps that I remember is the reason why we do Gamma now. Because the guy who came and showed Battle Sheeps was on the Gamma board and got Zia to start going to Gamma.
Who was it that showed it?
I can't remember the guy, but you get Battle Sheep.
Alright, that's fine. I will definitely talk about Battle Sheep. Battle Sheep is an area control game, and it quite literally a very simple one. You have a series of different tiles that are made up of hexagons that are laid out in some kind of random pattern to set up the game. Then everyone takes their stack of sheep and places them in a single spot. I think you have about 20 chips that make up the sheep. Again, these are nice chunky plastic poker chip-like pieces, each one screen printed with sheep that represent your team. This is 2 to 4 players, and on your turn, you simply take a stack and take half of it and move it in a straight line down the hexagons as far as it can go. You choose which direction, and you choose how many you move.
Mm-hmm.
If you already have it where there's only one tile remaining in that stack, you just simply can't move that stack anymore.
Yep.
You also cannot go over other people's stacks or chips. You also cannot maneuver around empty spots. So quite simply, you're just trying to use these chips to block in your opponents, but without running out enough of them soon enough where you can't continue to expand into these empty spots. It is an incredibly smart game. It works really well, and it's very simple to learn. The production is fantastic. Even the cardboard tiles that you lay out, they're massively thick. The poker chips are amazing, and I think that abstract strategy nature of it, that area control, really works. I hate area control normally. That is done in an abstract strategy kind of way that works really well. So Battleship is my personal pick for this.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I can't stand Battleship. And it's one of those things where we have to take our bias out of this. I do not like this game. It's fine. I don't mind the mechanisms and stuff like that in it. I think it's a neat concept of trying to get area majority basically, or area control, basically blocking off the other players. But I was bored out of my mind when I played it. There's a reason why I haven't played this game in 10 years. The other one I haven't played for 10 years is the one I got to argue, which is Brave Rats. And the reason why I haven't played this in 10 years, it's one of the main reasons I don't have these style of games. I don't have two-player games really anymore, other than, say, like Fox in the Forest, because they just don't get played. Basically, this is a gamer's version of War. Challengers is a little bit heavier when it comes to the War side of it, but you basically have a hand of cards. I think the numbers are 0 through 7. And you're basically playing, you and the player are playing one card at the same time, and then you flip it up. Whoever is the highest number wins. However, each card has a special ability, so that can influence the thing, and you're just trying to win 4 times. And so there's a little push and pull. It's kind of a little bit of bluffing. You're trying to play mind games. Which card am I playing? Because I think the 0 negates the 7 or something like that. Yes. So if I play the 0 on the 7, I will end up beating the 7. So it's like, okay, I know you haven't played your 7 yet, and I still have my 0 in for that reason. Is this time you're going to try to pull out that big card? And so there's a little push and pull aspect of it. So it's War basically on steroids, but you're not flipping randomly. You're making the decision of what card you're playing, how you're going to play it, and again, the powers will influence. And the first person to win 4 victories wins the game. I love the art on these cards. They're ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a good little strategic 2-player game. I'm not really a big fan of these styles where I'm trying to play poker against you. That's the reason why I don't play poker in casinos. I play blackjack because I only have to deal with the dealer. I don't have to deal with anybody else. Right. But I like the way this one worked. It never got played in my house. I ended up having a copy and ended up selling it because it just never got played. But I do enjoy it. I think it's a fine game. It's fun. It's by far one of the simplest games out there because it's basically you're just playing a card and you're trying to beat the other person. First person to 4 wins. But honestly, I think it only wins really ease of play because everything else, I
don't even think it wins that because since every card has its own ability,
it's not that hard, honestly.
No, it's not hard, but Battleship cut a stack in half. That's the game. I just did it. Like, I did every move. Yeah, no, but I still think it's one of the easier ones because you basically say it's War with a little bit more. Because that's how you described it to me and my wife, and we played it. Yep. So I think Brave Rats was easy to play. And honestly, I would say the art of Brave Rats is much better than Battleship because it's basically just little tokens that you put across the board. But the production is by far better. Yes, I said the art is better in Brave Rats. Everything else is probably better in Battleship. I think Battleship's going to move on. Brave Rats just kind of sneaked into this one. Yeah. It's a fine little 2-player game. And that's saying something because I do not like Battleship. No, and that's fine. No, I get why you don't like it. It's not your style. And Brave Rats still, like, I know why you don't like that. I'm just saying, like the simplicity of Battleship of just moving a stack of chips. Like that's Phil Walker Harding level simplicity, right? It's dunk, done.
But
That's
not
all it
not Phil
really is.
Walker Harding good.
Fair, but simple, yes. All right, so we agree. Battleship moves on.
Yep.
All right, and that finishes up our quarterfinal round.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 games were eliminated. That was Brave Rats, Okaya, Goblets, and Cloud City. Daniel, would you like to tell us how they were voted for?
I'm giving it a nice little refresh here.
Alrighty.
And see if the votes changed. I don't think they will because this has been up for 2 days now, and I think that's the max.
Yeah.
Yep, we have the same number of votes, so I don't have to refresh again. Let's start with Cloud City had 3% of the vote. Goblet was at 3% of the vote.
Yep.
Okaya was at 1% of the vote. And then finally, Brave Rats was, where is that one? There it is, at 1% of the vote
as well. Yeah, you can tell that there's not nearly as much love for those. The other ones, they're up there for a reason. But with that being said, let's go into the semifinals round. We have King Domino versus Battleship. Here we go. And that is I will be arguing first.
Wouldn't it be as interesting as a debate style podcast?
We have more differences in our tastes than we do similarities, I feel.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
You get King Domino.
King Domino. So King Domino's moving on. I mean, let's think about this for a minute, right? I would give Battleship ease of play.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That's it.
But then again, honestly, King Domino is really simple too. The only hard part of King Domino is just the scoring. Honestly, it's just the multiplayer. That's all it is.
Right. Well, the hard part is not the scoring, but also like the turn order.
Yeah.
Manipulation thing. That's the other hard part.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
No, it's not hard at all. It's by far one of the simplest games on our list.
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, here's the thing. It's literally 2 additional choices versus one additional choice. Right. So King Domino, I think obviously I would give ease of play to Battleship. But everything else, King Domino has a lot of different choices. The way that you choose your turn order and how you draft your tiles deeply impacts the other player's strategy. This is the only one with expansions. There's not really much you can do to expand Battleship, honestly. I mean, it's good as it is. It's like trying to expand checkers, right? There's no real reason to do it.
Honestly, this is closer to Chinese checkers than it is to checkers.
That's true. It's closer to that one. Game immersion. I mean, the art on it. There's a lot of little subtle art that like kind of adds to the silliness. Like I know in one of the water tiles, there's like a little Loch Ness monster silhouette, and there's like silly little things on there. And on top of that, you have a little like 3D little castle that sits like right in the middle tile that you have. That's fun. That's a nifty little thing. There's a lot of different fun parts about it. The game is just fun. I mean, it's simple. It doesn't need to be anything, but I would be very surprised if it doesn't move on, but I still want to hear your side of the argument.
Battleship, but in all honesty, Battleship is actually a really smart game, even though I don't really care much for it. Because of the basically, and it's a good tactile game too. Those Bakelite, the chips are really nice. Yeah. Because at its core, we were talking about it's kind of like Chinese checkers. You're trying to take as much of the board as you can for you to win the game, and so you have to make strategic choices. How am I going to take this off this stack? How do I want to take 4 and block this area, but then that only leaves me 4 to go this way, or however you're doing the stack. But then if I go 4 here, which will block this all off, and I got my 6 over here, then I can start working this way and take that part of the board. It is a very tactical game. And it's a multiplayer abstract strategy game in a sense that you don't see all that often. I don't think most abstract strategy games are 2 players.
2 players. Like Corridor is probably one of them that pulls it off well. And but there's really not too many that pull off 4-player abstract strategy well.
For that, I think that's also neat with Battleship, and it's really well done. It's got some great components on it. But honestly, the only big thing for me is with like the meaningful choice aspect of it is there is a lot of strategy that you have to do in this game.
Right. There's no random.
Yeah, there's no arbitrary choices. But and when it comes to that part of it too, AP could be a real big factor in both of these games.
Yes.
Because you're sitting there like, oh, if I do this tile, and then you have to puzzle that out. And then someone takes that tile I was looking at, and I'm like, okay, now if I can do this tile, how do I puzzle this out?
Right.
Battleship, you have to be tactical what you're doing. It's like, if I do this over here, but if I do this over here, which one would give me more of the board? And he did there, can I trap him in there? There is a lot of AP in both of these games. And I know this for a fact because I play both of these games with high AP players. Mm-hmm. So, push or pull on this one. The only reason I think Meaningful Choice goes to Battleship is because there is no arbitrary choices. You have to be smart at how you play your strategy, yes. How you are skillful at what you're doing on this one, mm-hmm. And because what you do can impact someone else. If you block 100%. Them in, if you block them in like one of their bigger stacks, you block that stack in, they're kind of screwed because they right. Can't take over more of the board. All they can yes. do is play in this little section there and just try to spread right. as much of the board they can in that little section. Yep. So it is very tactical in that part, but I honestly think ease of play and Meaningful Choice goes to Battleship. Replay value, game immersion, art production, I think all of those are King Domino.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think King Domino does move on because it really is more immersive, there's more replay value, and it's the art and production is just fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
and
cool.
That's saying something because Battleship has those nice little tiles.
Yes. But that's the hard part about, the same publisher going up against
each other. When we're doing these publisher ones, yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Next one is Spotted versus Planetfall. I never thought I would say that. Spotted versus Planetfall. I said that wrong. Spotted versus Planet.
I was like...
Yeah. You'll be starting us off.
Planetfall's Arcane Wonders?
Yes, Planetfall's Arcane Wonders.
How did I get Planet again? That's interesting.
We just played it.
Alright, so I get to argue Planet once again. Everything I said about it at the beginning, I still hold true. I prefer Planet because of the tile laying. There's a lot more tactical strategy in this game. Right. You have to be smart of what you're drafting, how you're scoring, and also impacting someone else's choices.
Yes.
Spotted is basically a speed game. Hey, I'm going to play this, I'm going to play this, and I'm going to play this.
But 5 different speed games. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. But it's still a speed game. You're not really having to strategize your next move. You don't have to really think very hard. Right. You just have to be good at spotting things. I can play I Spy and try to figure something out.
Right.
So, but this one, I'm like, I got to build this pattern good. I need to do this. I say Spot It wins probably ease of play because it's that simple of a game. And maybe I'll give you game immersion just because Planet can be multiplayer solitaire, because I remember playing this game and no one's talking at the table because everybody's just, you hear mumbling more than anything. There's no role playing or aspect of that, so people are just talking out their turn. But I think replay value in Planet, other than the multiple different things. But the one thing I have a gripe about Spotted, they have all these different things, right? Mm-hmm. They can't interact with each other because they're all different symbols.
They're all
they're expandable, single games. So they're not expansions per se. They're just a single game.
It's just different art.
So replay value, there's a lot more tiles that can come up, or different concepts, or the scoring cards can be different when you're playing Planet. I love the art and production in Planet. Yeah, I get what you're saying because of the magnets, but the magnets work so well in this game.
Yeah.
It does a great...
They're necessary.
Yeah. And it just looks really good. So for me, I think Planet should move on over Spotted. But let's hear your argument for Spotted.
Multiple billion copies of Spotted have been sold, and there's a reason for that, because this can be played with non-gamers. Mm-hmm. Planet, not so much. I mean, it's a little heady, especially with the 3D aspect of it. So, I mean, without a doubt, ease of play gets it. And in fact, replay value, I do want to point out the fact that not only is it Dobble in Europe and Spotted here in the United States, there's actually a third version, I don't know if you know about, is by Exploding Kittens that they've reprinted it. It's called Anarchy Pancakes.
Oh, God.
And they've made their own version of Spotted that uses...
Here's my thing.
It's the same thing.
With which
I can appreciate.
Exploding Kittens. I hate your names, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I get it. But, I mean, Anarchy Pancakes will get people to buy it.
I think the best name game that they have right now is Mantis.
Yeah, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
I mean, but people love the oatmeal. People love the style of
No,
art.
I get it. Yeah.
And it's in Target still. You know,
And it's a mass market type thing. Yeah.
It is a mass market style game. But with that being said,
but they ruined Happy Salmon because I don't like their version of Happy Salmon.
I like that it can play more players out of the base box.
I get
You don't
that.
need a second box. That's cool.
But I think the art is better in the original Happy Salmon. Yeah. More stars.
You should pull up the art for Anarchy Pancakes just so you can see it. But pull that up.
I don't need to see it. I've seen Exploding Kitchen's Happy Salmon art. It's the same.
No, it's different. It's different enough. It's humorous. It's silly. But with that being said, you're right. Yes, there's 5 different instructions on how to play it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really just 5 different variations on the same game. That's why I picked my favorite one. And that's why I go with the one with the single one in the stack, and you just speed play the 10.
Mm-hmm.
As a player who's grown up on those speed games, and I understand why people appreciate it, though. This is a gamer's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And even though game immersion, it has those memorable moments, which Planet definitely doesn't. It's pretty stale.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly simpler to play because I can teach it in 10 seconds, if that. Replay value, meaningful choice, art and production, Planet, hands down.
Yeah.
Planet moves on.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that one. Like I said, I don't mind Spot It. It's a good game, especially for like the younger audience.
For what it is.
Yeah. But it's just, it's bland.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't fulfill the need that a lot of gamers need.
Yeah.
Right. But that is literally a game you could throw in your pocket and bring to anybody and play it with them.
I get that. Yes and no. For the simple fact, I've played this with my family members, and my grandma hated this game.
Again, but you play with grumpy people.
Well, I'll give you that. My grandma is a very grumpy person. I mean, so.
Sure. Like, and no offense to your grandma, I've never met her. I don't know. But what I'm saying though is that like this is literally like the fact that she sat down and was willing to play it, thus proved my point. That she would like if she saw Planet, she'd be like, no. I can't imagine.
What do you mean?
Most people play it.
Well, yeah, no, my grandma wouldn't play it.
Everyone would stare at it and go, ooh, that's cool looking. But most people would be intimidated.
But my grandma, like, back in the day when I was growing up, she was a hardcore cribbage, pinochle, bridge, all those games.
Yeah.
So she plays card games, yeah.
Sure, that's the lifestyle, though.
Yeah.
I mean, how many Magic players do we know that branch off into many other board games? Not as many as there should be. Not as many as there should be. There are some. Not as many as there should be.
Actually, know quite a few people who used to play Magic but now into board games because they got tired of, the Magic cycle in a sense. So.
Right, but had they not been tired of the Magic cycle, let's say Magic just stopped and it just became like more of the same and more of the reason why they loved it, there was no reason to leave that game. But that's what I'm saying. Like people who play cribbage and bridge, like on a regular basis, like mahjong on a regular basis, that's their game, right? And somebody like that, I couldn't show Planet to and go, you want to give it a shot? And they go, oh, absolutely. Versus, hey, you want to try Spot It real quick? They're like, yeah, I'll tolerate it for a moment.
You know what's funny?
You know what I mean?
My grandma actually liked The Crew.
Well, that makes sense. that's a...
It just popped in my head right now, so I was like, she really enjoyed The Crew.
If she likes bridge, Crew is an easy translation to that, right? But Planet is not.
No, it's not.
All right, that goes into our final round. But before we do, Spot It and Battle Sheep were both eliminated from our list in our semifinals. Let's take a look. Yes, Cribbage and Backgammon. Let's play.
Spot It, 4%. And then the other one was Battle Sheep, right?
Battle Sheep. Yep.
Battle Sheep was at 8%, so it's gotten some love.
All right, so now we have the final two. This, we do not debate either side. We're just going to break it down point by point. This is King Domino versus Planet. Winner takes all. Best blue-orange game. Daniel, is there anything that's immediately obvious?
Art and production.
Art and production. I agree.
Planet?
Yes. Yeah, because of that dodecahedron. Yeah. It's so good.
It's so great.
I keep wanting to say icosahedron. I apologize to the math people. Icosahedron is a 20-sided.
Yeah.
My apologies. This is a 12-sided. This is a dodecahedron.
But it's
and don't you forget it.
It's so gorgeous. No, don't get me wrong. I love the tiles in King Domino.
I mean, the art on that is better. Yeah. But that production is really fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. And I know you gripe about the magnets, but they're really cool.
No, I mean it's just it makes it functionally difficult, and that's one of the only.
I get that.
That's the only example out of all of these games that I think has a functional problem with it, is that it the any part of the production that makes it harder to play the game as it's supposed to be played is a knock to the production, huge knock to the production.
Okay,
It's just like something not being colorblind friendly.
Yeah.
It's like we can't play it.
Yeah, I have one more that does stand out to me.
Let me see if I can guess it.
Mm-hmm.
King Domino versus Planet. Ooh, is that replay value?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Oh,
Easy
easy
play.
play. Easy play. That's Planet as well. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say King Domino.
Oh no, it's Planet. Both of them are drafting, except drafting with extra steps for King Domino.
That is true. Okay.
I mean, they're both tile laying. They're both area.
Yeah, but if people are coming over from like dominoes, it's not that hard to a concept of how you lay things down too.
Well, sure.
Okay.
But the scoring is very different than Domino.
I'll give you Planet. That's fine.
Yeah, I think Planet goes to ease of play. Now, with meaningful choice, though, there is...
I already know what my meaningful choice is, but I want to hear your argument.
I do think that would be King Domino.
Yes.
And that's because the variability of each of the tiles, knowing the hierarchy of how valuable they are,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing and having to adapt your strategy based on what is available,
Yeah.
because you only have a limited number of tiles that you can branch off of it, you might purposefully try to go out of your way to lay something down that you normally wouldn't be able to, just so you have more options later on in the future.
Yep.
That's a huge thing.
It like we talk about it here, impacting or depth of strategy and tactics and stuff
Yes.
like that. You're playing. It's kind of like that chess. You're playing a couple moves ahead. It's like,
Yeah.
I know this is not going to be great for me now, but if I play this right, it'll be great for me scoring wise later.
Yes, absolutely. And Planet doesn't do that.
No.
In fact, you could put opposite tile types next to each other,
Yeah.
and there's no penalty.
There's no penalty for
other
you.
than the fact that it's just not branching off still.
Yeah.
And you're not making those bigger and bigger groups,
Yeah.
which is not so much a detriment, but just that's functionally how the game is supposed
Yeah.
to be done. But at the same time, it just doesn't quite work as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Meaningful choice is
King Domino.
King Domino.
All right, now
I'm gonna skip game immersion. Let's go to replay value because
that is King Domino because that is the only one with expansions. It plays the same number of players.
And
it has
the thing
multiple
about
versions.
It, like, Queen Domino and King Domino can be mixed together. That's a big thing too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We never mentioned that, but yeah, you can integrate both of them together.
Yep.
In fact, I think they were selling a big box with both of them in there plus expansions.
Yep. Yep. So replay value, definitely King Domino. So it comes down to game immersion.
Both are fun to lose in a certain aspect. I think for that part, I think King Domino is just a little bit more fun to lose because of just the much more strategy you're thinking. It's like, oh, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. Oh, I thought I did really well. Oh, well.
The multiplier is what gets that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, like, it's like I have 10 spaces full of wheat, 0 crowns, worthless to me.
Yeah.
Love it. You know, like that's hilarious.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's like, I did really good on the wheat. Oh, wait, I didn't get a crown in there.
Yeah.
I'm screwed.
And that's dynamic, right? It's like, man, I need to get first tile here so that way I can get any wheat crown I can get a hold of. Because I'm not getting it otherwise, right?
And for me as well, I think this is going to be King Domino winning game immersion because the memorable moments. I remember playing this when we were on lockdown. We played this on our
Board Game Arena?
board gamer. No, we got the Steam because it was part of the Humble Bundle.
Uh-huh. Yep.
We played this as a group, and I remember we were making fun of our friend because he kept pushing it, but he was just waiting for that one tile to come up and that one tile to come up, and when it came up, it made his multiplier go to like 20 points or something like that. And I remember everybody at the table was like, I think we just lost, but that was freaking amazing.
Yep, when he came back from New Orleans. That
Pretty
makes
much.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, and so I just remember those memorable moments. You get some of that in Planet, but even then, it's just...
Well, the memorable moments that... And this isn't so much a memorable moments, but it's every game at the end of it. You sit back and you just observe your creation.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has that moment where they're just looking around, they're like, this is cool.
Yeah,
you know?
what did I do?
It's almost cathartic,
Yeah.
right? It's that that moment alone shines every single time you play it.
That is
and
true.
and that's the most memorable part of the game. Is not how you pick the tiles, not how you get the scoring. Is literally just when everyone's done and they're holding this planet in their hands. That's impactful.
Yeah, I agree with that aspect. I think the memorable moments in King Dominoes when you pull off the really good combos or you find that tile that you need to get.
When the flop hits, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're also thinking about like the player interaction in there is like, don't you take my tile, Dom.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go early. I'm taking that tile.
Right.
You should have done earlier beforehand. So there's like when we were playing King Domino and we weren't around each other. We were just doing this over like Discord while playing on the Steam. And
Right.
I just remember we were having a great conversation, and I've done that with the physical copy too. There's a great conversation where you're trash talking each other, where it's like, in Planet, yeah, I could take that and screw you, and I get a really good thing.
Right.
Or I could take this one. You still get your really good thing, and this is a great thing for me.
Right.
So.
Well, when we think about the overall arcing of this category, right?
Mhm.
It's game immersion. Which one feels like it's doing? Do you in King Domino? Do you feel like you're building a kingdom, or do you feel like in Planet you're building a planet? Because I feel like at the end of the game, like you look at that globe and you're like, man, I messed this up. Like, and even how you said it earlier, it's like, man, the Arctic is right next to the Sahara somehow. And I feel like as the overall, it's so hard to compare the two because they offer, I think, equally memorable moments in two incredibly different ways.
Yeah.
And they're both that impactful. Now, with that being said, though, that I'm saying I think they're both fun to lose and they're both memorable moments. I think both of those are washes.
Okay.
Player interaction, though, there is I don't care what you're doing in Planet at all.
That's
like
true.
if you take a tile, sure, whatever.
Yeah, there's something that's going to come up for me better.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, wolves can't live here, whatever. I don't care. Right. But
if you take that
I'm
thing with the crown
right here. Right. This is my life right here. Is this 12 tiles that I'm putting pentagons together to make this thing. This is where I am at the moment.
That's your headspace.
Versus player interaction. Like, which one am I going to be like, haha, take a look at my kingdom. Yours is dumb for no crowns. I think that extra little table talk, that role playing is what pushes King Domino
That
over.
also, you mentioned it too, where you're thinking about like that player interaction is like, aha, look at all those wheat you do. And this is a wheat with a crown on it. There's no points for you if I take this tile, and it will score my wheat at least 5 points. So you know what? I'm gonna take this tile.
Yeah.
You.
Like you have a massive wheat field, but I have the one with the crown, and I'm scoring more points suddenly. Yes, that part alone about it, it's like, haha, you are feeding no one.
It's like,
it's hilarious.
Yeah, it screws you over, and I'm not a real big fan of take that. But I'm still making points by taking this crown. I went from 0 points to 5 points, and you went from 10 points to nothing.
Right. No, and that's my reasoning. I think immersion-wise, I do feel like Planet is slightly more immersive, but King Domino, I think, takes the category.
Mm.
Do you agree?
I agree.
All right. Which means King Domino is the #1 blue-orange board game.
I did like that one a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't remember half these games sometimes.
But doesn't this make you want to play some more blue-orange pretty soon?
No.
Because I know it sure does for me. I really want to go home and play Naya, right now.
I mean, I'll play Naya. Some of these I will play. Like Goblin, I would like to get to the table.
Cloud City is
Cloud City's so good.
So good.
I wouldn't mind playing
Spotted a
Pappy
lot.
Winchester and Dragon Market, which were on my
Sure.
honorable mentions again. I did like those a lot. Don't get me wrong. I like blue orange games. They're good for what they need to do. It's just not my style, what I enjoy.
They embody that market
I know
perfectly.
you like those family-friendly Euro-style tactical stuff. I want something just a little bit more.
Sure.
So something like Gizmos.
I did pick up Bella Magica, which is another blue-orange game, and I am very curious to see how that one works
Yeah, I don't even think I have many blue-orange games anymore. I think I sold
No, I
most
think
of
you
mine.
got rid of most of yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than likely. All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you ever want to join us on a live episode... Oh, wait, real quick. What were the vote totals?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We need to talk about the vote totals.
All right, so we already talked. So the last one is Planet that got eliminated. That had 4% of the vote.
Come on, people. Play more Planet.
And that's because King Domino dominated this.
It King dominated.
Yeah, it dominated this category. It had over half of our votes, which was like nearly 50 votes. It was at 50 or like 48 or 6,
Yep.
something like that. Yeah. 54% was King Domino. This thing just ran away with it on our vote total. Even the ones that other people have added didn't even come close to it. I think the highest was 6%.
Yeah. And, there's been a lot of games, Craig, that you've helped me with the colors on.
Yeah.
I don't remember if Cloud City is one of them. It might have been. But if you Google it and look at the bridges between it, if you remember it, then it's probably the one.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we want to thank you for tuning in. If you ever want to join us on a live episode, like our friend Creative Chaos or Mario Fanatics, or who was up on the top end that I missed out?
Illuma Flames or something like that?
Yes, Illuma Flames. I apologize, I'm saying your name wrong. We'll check it here in a bit. But if any of our friends want to join us
In Flames.
In Flames, thank you. Join us on a live streaming of our podcast. You can do so. We stream it live on twitch.tv/everydayboardgames and join in on the conversation.
All video re-uploads can be found on YouTube under youtube.com/@everydayboardgamespodcast. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. Which is, in this one, what are your favorite Blue-Orange games?
And I totally messed that up because the next one was supposed to be our Twitch one. If you want to contact us directly, whether it's to enter in future contests, whether to give us ideas for upcoming episodes, or simply just to say hello, you can email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.